What is good, guys? Welcome back to the NNESAGA channel. It is your girl Steph, and I already know why you're here. You are here because we just did an exclusive interview with the man himself, Matt Reeves. First and foremost, thank you so much to our friends over at Warner Bros. For giving us the opportunity to interview the director and co-writer of the upcoming movie, The Batman. Matt Reeves gives us an insight and a perspective on something new, refreshing, and something that he wants the audience and the fans to see in early years of Batman. So stay tuned. Hi, Matt. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Trying to enjoy the British weather.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice day, huh?
Yeah, it is. Maybe because they knew that you're here. So, they wanted to show up. So first and foremost, congratulations on this movie. I've had a chance to watch it and don't want to say much, but honestly, well done to you. When you first watched the movie yourself, the final version anyways, the first final version, how did you feel emotionally? And what's one thing you want the fans who are watching to take away from this?
Well, for me, it was a very emotional experience when I saw the final we watched the mix playback, they call it, right? So you finally finish the mix and you're watching that movie back. And I started working on the movie 5 years ago. And obviously the world, not just us, but the whole world has been through so much in these last 5 years. So for it to finally be over, and this character that I love so much, and working with these actors who I love so much, and an amazing cast and crew, everybody, I just got very emotional. I actually had to leave the mix. I just got so emotional because it just hit me all at once. And really, Michael's music was so beautiful. And it just struck me right at that last moment, just how incredibly moving it was. So, it was certainly, it was exciting as well, to finally be at the end of this journey and to feel like, okay, there it is. And we're about to share it with the world. I'm excited. I hope that, for me, what I really wanted to do was to put people really in an empathic, subjective, almost Hitchcockian thriller, sort of spectacle version of Batman, where you feel like you're immersed in Batman's world. And it's meant to really be a big screen movie where you go through that experience in a very visceral way. And so I hope that the one thing that people will have in going to see this movie is a very visceral and immersive experience.
Couldn't say it better, because that is exactly how things happened with me and how it was conveyed in how you told it beautifully. I'm a big comic book reader, so I guess
cool.
So going into my next question, I mean, this is the first time in cinema that we're actually seeing the younger version of Batman and Bruce Wayne. So with stories like The Long Halloween, Batman Year One, Dark Victory, how important was it for you to remain true to the sources, but to also tell your very own version of Batman?
Very important. I mean, to me, I wanted to, when I began, I just read every comic I could get my hands on, and tried to kind of absorb it and get to an essence. And there was something in The Long Halloween that sort of seemed to provide the opportunity to the world's greatest detective, which I felt was something that hadn't been done in the movies as the main thrust of the movie, to actually do a kind of serial killer story, a thriller, touches of a horror movie, psychological horror. I just thought, oh, well, this would be a really different tone to do for the movie, to put you into this kind of psychological place with Batman. So that was very much inspired by that comic, but there were a lot of comics that inspired the movie. I mean, Ego by Darwin Cook, that was a super important one. Dark Victory you already mentioned. Year One for sure. I mean, the practicality of that, not really the story per se, and not really the story in any of these stories. It was more the tone and the approach. Like, it was the psychology of Ego. It was the serial killer aspect of The Long Halloween. It was the kind of very grounded, practical nature of Year One. So different comics sort of offered different things, and none of them were really meant to be inspirations in terms of the direct adaptation of stories, as much as they were kind of tonally inspiring in various different ways.
That was perfect. I loved how you grabbed different emotions and different themes of different comics to really tell and gather this whole movie. So absolutely. And I think one thing as well, which I really noticed as well, is the relationship between, Gordon and Selina Kyle.
I knew I didn't want to do an origin tale for Batman because that had been done really, really well in the movies. We'd seen it more than once. And so I was like, well, we can't do that again. But if we could do an early years Batman, I knew that in reading the comics that so many of the rogues gallery characters and the major characters like Gordon, they were kind of sort of coming into their own in relation to Batman. And so it could be their origin stories. And so, that year one relationship where Gordon and Batman earn each other's trust, I thought, oh, it'd be really cool to make that very central to this movie. And the relationship that Jeffrey has with Rob in the movie is, I think, so satisfying. I mean, they're like partners. It's like the French Connection. You know what I mean? They're like these two cops or something, except one of them is wearing a cowl and cape. So they're also, to me, the other thing that they are as partners is Woodward and Bernstein. It's like All the President's Men. They're trying to get to the bottom of this mystery about how high up the corruption goes in this place and where this all stems from. So their partnership felt like something we could lean into in a way that you hadn't quite seen either. And certainly the idea of a Catwoman Selina Kyle also absolutely comes right out of year one. To me, that was an exciting idea of seeing him see Selina Kyle before she was Catwoman and see the elements of Catwoman already there and have that tease, but have him make certain assumptions about her that were wrong and that came from him being kind of sheltered, and that they're really both orphans and they've had similar traumas in their childhood, but she hasn't had any of the resources and benefits that he has. And he has no clue about that because he was just born into that. So he makes assumptions about her being morally corrupt because she's in a morally corrupt world. But really, she's a survivor and she's doing what she has to do to survive in a really rough place. And so his image of what she is and what the world is going to be shattered by his relationship with her. She is going to be part of an awakening for him in the story. And that to me was an exciting sort of way to go too.
Honestly, because again, just the way that you described it kind of relates to real life worlds, how things are going on in different societies. So it's very reminiscent of, how things are happening. And I guess, my next question is the version of Gotham City to, previous movies until what you have now. We've seen some of the clips from the cinematography and everything, and how beautiful, you use some of the lenses. How important did you want to create that version of Gotham City for you?
Oh, it's super important. I mean, the Gotham City is a character in the movie, and it's specifically a character in this story. And, in a way, this place is why all of the characters that we love and are fascinated by are the way they are. It's because they grew up in this place, and the corruption of this place, and the crime in this place, the hardship of this place, the disparity between the haves and the have-nots, and all of these things that, for me, actually, it was important to make sure that Gotham feel like our world. And so, that's one of the great things about telling a Batman story, is that Gotham offers the opportunity to put a lens on the world and the time that those stories are told. And so I wanted to make sure that social media would be part of the story. I thought that's what the Riddler would use, and the effect of that, how this kind of toxic message could spread and inflame a mob, and how all of this stuff could be part of the unsettling fabric of Gotham. And then the look itself, I wanted to make sure that we were being definitive, that we were doing something where it was an iconic East Coast American city that was also not one you'd seen before. So we had Gotham Square, and that was obviously inspired by Times Square, but I didn't want us to shoot it in Times Square because then you'd say, oh, well, Gotham is New York. I wanted you to feel like it was its own place. So we went to Liverpool and we chose this square and then used CG to kind of put in the more modern buildings and the big screens and all that kind of stuff, so that you would feel like what you were seeing was utterly real, and yet also felt like you couldn't figure out where it was being filmed. And so this was the first time you were going to this city. We tried to really use the Gothic architecture of a number of cities, Glasgow, places in London, and places in Liverpool, and even a little bit of Chicago, but I didn't want you to know that it was any of those places per se. I wanted you to feel like this was our world. And then the production design that James Chinlin did to build, we built an incredible backlot. Where the Iceberg Lounge is and the bridge and where the Riddler's apartment is, that was all a street that we built in Leavesden. And so the idea of trying to create this and make it all rainy and visually make sure that that the grit and grime almost felt like it was getting on the lens. I wanted you to be immersed in this world so that you felt like you were in this kind of neo-noir, Gothic, sort of archetypical, mythic, immersive world.
Thank you so much. And thank you for using, you know, parts of London and our UK to
Yeah,
really tell
cool.
this
It was
story.
loved
Thank
being
you.
here. Yeah, it was great.
You're welcome anytime. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
So I hope you all enjoyed this interview. It was incredible to just talk and hear the passion of Matt Reeves. Thank you so much to Warner Brothers for this incredible opportunity. Don't forget, The Batman arrives in cinemas March 4th. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more of this, because we love doing this. And we'll see you in our next video. Peace.